Hello, welcome to day 4. So Riley and I are on our way again after spending the night camped out at Neel Gap, just near Mountain Crossings Outfitters. And we got in there, I guess, about 6 p.m. yesterday and had a great campsite where we could just walk back after setting up our tent back to the outfitter. They have a nice outdoor seating area with picnic tables and access to water on the outside and charging stations. And I was hoping to do several things. The primary thing was I was hoping to actually start to post some of my first videos to YouTube, and I actually didn't get around to doing that until this morning. And I finished all the editing and tried to upload it to YouTube, and it seemed like it was taking kind of forever. It seemed like it would take like 5 hours or more, but it wasn't really clear how long it would take. So eventually I gave up on that, and I decided that I will try to spend the night at a hostel upcoming. So we're around mile 32 right now. Neel Gap was at mile 31.4, and when we get up to about mile 70, which we should be able to do in about 4 days, we will be 0.6 of a mile away from a hostel called Around the Bend Hostel. And I'm thinking that we might get a room and spend the night there. And I will hope that they have good Wi-Fi there, and I can hopefully utilize the Wi-Fi to get all my YouTube stuff straightened out. But other than that, we had a productive time at Mountain Crossings otherwise. So far on our hike today, we got off to a late start today. We didn't leave till about 3:30. And hey, Riley. And Riley is not being super energetic today. He's taking multiple stops. So we're probably not going to get very far today. And I hear thunder in the distance. So hopefully we don't get poured on. But just to update on some of the things we did at the hostel. They were super friendly at the hostel. So after setting up our tent and coming back to sit down, it was starting to get dark, and I was thinking that it might start to rain. So I moved into like a covered area. There wasn't many covered areas, but there was a particular covered area that I moved into, and there was this guy who worked at the hostel who was kind of passing back and forth several times because I think his residence was nearby. And he made us feel totally welcome to stay where we were staying. And so initially I had brought my phone pad out for Riley to sit on while we were waiting there. And this guy was I already said he was super friendly, but he brought Riley a big bowl of water for him to drink out of. And he also had a spare foam pad that was a little thicker than the one I have, and he lent that to Riley for him to use so he could be a little more comfortable. And he also brought a blanket to put over Riley in case he got cold, which he didn't end up needing, but it was super nice of him to do that. He was clearly a dog lover. And he also had he actually had some cat treats. He didn't have dog treats, but he had some cat treats that he asked me if it would be okay to give Riley. And I said, of course, I think he would probably like that very much. And so went to go get it and put it down on the ground, and Riley ate it up very quickly. Yeah, so that was just one instance of the people there being really, really nice. So although I didn't make any progress with the YouTube stuff, I was able to order a 5-pound bag of dog food, which I'm gonna have sent to the Around the Bend hostel at around mile 70. So that should help with resupplying Riley's dog food, so I don't need to worry about that too much. And if we're not able to get to the hostel in 4 days, they'll just hold on to the package until we get there. So that's very nice. And a few other things. So I had mentioned in I think yesterday's video that Riley's dog bowl that he eats out of, it kind of broke due to an accident where my bear canister just landed on it, and it cracked the bottom of the plastic container. So I was able to find in their hiker box, I was able to find another bowl that seems, it's made out of metal, but it seems pretty light for being made out of metal, and it's a good sized, it's round. I'll show it maybe when we get set up for camp tonight. But it's maybe about that deep and maybe about 6 inches or 5 inches in diameter, and it's pretty lightweight, so I think that'll work pretty well for Riley going forward. And since it's made out of metal, it should be pretty durable. And another thing I did there is that I decided to buy a 2-person tent. So I already bought an Outdoor Vitals 40S 1-person tent, and last night was the second night that Riley and I have stayed in it, and it works fine for us, but it is kind of cramped. And I think Riley and I would be more comfortable with a 2-person tent. And part of the reason it's cramped is that Riley tends to like to sleep horizontally in the tent as opposed to vertically. So when he sleeps horizontally, he's basically taking up the entire width of one section of the tent. And so that means that I can either like set my legs out first and he can kind of put his head on top of them. That's usually what happens. And that's fine for a little bit, but then eventually I'll get kind of restless in that position and want to move around. And for me to move around, I'll have to wake Riley up, and that's just, I mean, it's been workable. It is workable, but it's just not the most convenient. And I think I just think it'll be a lot more convenient to have the 2-person tent. And there is an increase in weight and an increase in size, but it's not super significant. So I think the extra space will be worth it. Yeah, these are the kinds of decisions that certainly I could have made before the trail, but now I feel much more confident in making after trying out the 1-person tent. And it's not like the 1-person tent that I purchased is going to waste. Like I'll still be able to use it in the future, because, well, I guess for the most part when I'm hiking with Riley, I'll probably take the 2-person tent, but the 1-person tent is still in good shape, and I'm sure I'll still be able to put it to good use in the future. Another cool thing at the Mountain Crossings Outfitters is I ran into a guy that works there who I remember seeing back when I first did the trail in 2017. And I may have told this story before, I'm not sure, but when I first did my very first hike on the Appalachian Trail in 2017, I started with a 55-pound pack, and I eventually made it to Neel Gap, and to the Mountain Crossings Outfitter store. And I was aware that they did pack shakedowns at the Gap. So which is where someone reviews everything you have in your pack and kind of helps you determine what you need and what you don't need. And I got there, and this guy named Bill was inside at the time, and he saw me, and he was super nice. He just said, lay your pack down on the floor and just take everything out, and we're just going to go through it one by one, and I'm going to help you figure out what you can send home or get rid of and what you actually need on the trail. And when I walked out of there, my pack was significantly lighter. I don't remember specifically what it weighed, but it was probably at least 20 pounds lighter. And yeah, I just remember him being such a nice person, and I had a great experience when I was there the first time. And I saw him again this time. I went into the store looking to buy actually an inflatable pillow, because the pillow that I'm using, it's an Outdoor Vitals pillow. It's one that I got for free, one that they sent me as like a promotional thing, and it worked well for up till now. But I noticed in using it on this trip that I would blow it up and it would hold the air for a little bit, but like in a few hours I would have my head on it and the air would be not totally gone, but it would be significantly lowered. So there's some kind of leak in the pillow, and it's not holding air for the entire night. So I decided to buy a new inflatable pillow, and I went in there, and Bill was there again, and he kind of directed me to the section, and there were many pillows to choose from, and I kind of narrowed it down to 2 pillows, and I was having a little difficulty deciding which one to get. And Bill kind of saw me in my indecisiveness, and he just took a air mattress that they had on display, and he just threw it on the floor, and he was like, just lie down, try them out. And that's just the kind of place that he runs there. Like, he's very, he just wants the people who come into the store to get what they need and have a good experience, and he doesn't care if they like actually try the stuff out in the store, as long as they're not going to damage anything. So yeah, that was really cool to see him again. And we ended up not leaving till 3:30 because after dealing with the YouTube stuff this morning, I just wanted to stick around to charge things up. And that took a little bit of time, but eventually we got everything done. And so now we're back on the trail, and Riley is, as you can see, he's not very eager to continue hiking. He's been working hard, and yet yesterday he was hiking really strong, and that was partly because there was another hiker that was with us that I think was kind of motivating him to go forward. And he got lots of rest last night and lots of rest today, while we were at the store. But it just seems like he kind of wants to rest. So I'm gonna let him take it easy and not push him too hard. So I will update later on where we get to today. So talk to you later. So we took a extended break back there, and I sat down with Riley, and he wasn't really in a hurry to go, but he did get up and started munching on some grass, and then he came back and sat down again. and we sat down together for a while, and then I asked Riley if he wanted to get going, and he kind of perked up, and so then I started to put my pack on, and then I strapped his leash into the pack, and I kind of motioned to see if he wanted to walk, and he started to walk. So I'm trying to be careful, you know, not to force him to do something he doesn't want to do. But also I feel like sometimes if I'm not actively going forward, then he's not necessarily gonna like lead me forward if my momentum isn't already going that way. So I guess what I'm trying to say is it's still challenging to figure out, you know, to read what he needs as far as when he needs rest and when he's ready to continue hiking. Sometimes when he stops, it's because he needs a rest. Sometimes when he stops, it's because there's somebody behind us that he senses and he wants them to catch up. Sometimes when he stops, it may be because of something I'm doing, or so there's something interesting on the side of the trail, like now. So that's something that I mean, in all the time I've spent with Riley, that's something I've gotten a good handle on, but I'm trying to continue to work on that and make sure that I'm not asking him to do something that is too, you know, that's something that he's not enjoying. I do like even though we're not walking forward right now, I do like his behavior. I mean, he seems interested in his surroundings, and his tail has a nice curl to it. So he seems to be in good spirits, and it's just that we're going at a slower pace, which just means we won't finish, I guess, in a very short amount of time, but that's not a problem. The most important thing is that we're happy and we're safe and we're enjoying the hike. And to do that, we need to find a pace that is comfortable for both of us. So, and I guess combined with the other thing to consider is we need to also monitor the weather and make sure we don't get caught in any rainstorms. I mean, some rainstorms are inevitable, but we need to make sure that we can minimize any really bad weather that we get caught in and make sure we're not too far away from a shelter or far away from setting up a tent. So like in those cases where there is bad weather, then I would certainly not hesitate to really encourage Riley to move forward. And usually when it is raining, he's not resistant to moving forward. He's very good about following me when I pick up the pace, so we can get to our destination and get out of the harm's way of any bad weather. So we are moving again, and we'll see where we end up, but we'll check in later. So we just made it up to what seems like the peak of this mountain after Neel Gap. So after Neel Gap, we had a long ascent, and it seems like we finally reached kind of the peak. We passed like a nice viewpoint over there, which I missed, but now we're descending. So that, yeah, the peak lasted a very short amount of time. But it feels good to get there. It feels like we're making progress. took a while to get up there since Riley initially wasn't moving very fast. And I wasn't really sure why, but he clearly has, seems like he has some renewed interest in hiking now. I'm not pushing him forward at all. He's just kind of leading me down the, down the trail. And so I'm definitely encouraged by that. I do feel a few raindrops now, so it's very light. If it gets harder, I will get our rain jackets out and make sure we don't get too wet. But hopefully it doesn't last very long. All right, we'll check in later. So it's about 5 or less than 10 minutes later, and the rain has stopped, but I wasn't sure that it was going to stop, so I did stop and put our rain gear on right here. So, but now the sun's out and it's not raining anymore, so that's great. So, by the way, when I started the trail, all I brought was this rain poncho, Frog Tug's rain poncho, and I didn't bring like an actual rain jacket. And the reason for that was I thought that this would be sufficient, and I wanted to save weight. And before today, the past 3 days, it's rained 3 days in a row. And this rain poncho is not sufficient to keep me dry. I mean, it does help, but I still end up getting wet. So at the outfitter store at Neel Gap, someone had left a very nice Gore-Tex REI Gore-Tex rain jacket in the hiker box. It's a large size and it fits me very well. So I picked it up, and so my new rain gear is that I have this reliable raincoat, which I wear, and then I decided to keep the poncho to wear over it for additional protection. And I had some trouble initially, but I think I figured it out when I put it on just now. In that before I wasn't able to really get the back of the poncho to go over my pack, but I think I was able to do it properly this time so that it actually keeps the contents of my backpack dry. So that's just another cool thing that I was able to do at the outfitter store. Yeah, so it's cleared up nicely. Sky's up there. It's still cloudy, but I think we're through the danger of the rain. So I'm gonna remove Riley's raincoat here, and then we will continue on. The rain has held off nicely, and the sun is shining. It's not too hot. The rain kind of cooled things off. Riley's hiking nicely. All is well. I don't really know what mile marker we're at. I don't think we've gone super far since we left Neel Gap. It was just a short while ago. Maybe we've gone 2 miles or so. Not super concerned with that. I just want to make sure we're hiking strong and that we're happy and healthy. And wherever we get, that's okay. As long as we, of course, we got to get to a campsite or a shelter. Today, we're most likely going to be getting to some type of campsite. Because the next shelter closest to Neel Gap is Whitley Gap Shelter, which I believe is mile 38.1 according to my AT AWOL guide. And that shelter is 1.3 miles off of the trail, and that is a nice hike, but I feel like we have enough miles to hike on the AT itself. So I would prefer to stay on the AT and just find a campsite, especially because so far what I found is when we're staying in the tent, it seems like it's more comfortable because the ground is softer than the shelter floor, and I also feel like I have better control over Riley with him being enclosed in the zippered up tent. So we'll see what the rest of the day brings, but things are going well after a slow start. So it seems like we have just ascended another mountain, and I think this is a campsite out here, but it also seems like this is the peak of the mountain. Beautiful campsite right there, and I think this is probably the best place to get a nice view. Very nice early sunset. Beautiful campsite, lots of nice grass to make it very comfortable to sleep on. Riley seems to want to come into every, well, not every, but the majority of campsites that we cross. I'm guessing there's lots of smells here from people cooking and doing various things that Riley can smell from the trail, and he wants to check it all out. Riley got a few rolls in the grass earlier, and I was not able to capture it on film, but he enjoyed it nevertheless. I will try to capture some in the future, because he really lets loose with his fun activities when he's rolling in the grass. So Riley he likes to chew on grass. I've heard conflicting messages about whether that is good or bad. Some people I've heard say that it is bad for his digestion, or simply that it's not good for him and that it just passes through. And in the past I have noticed that after eating lots of grass, Riley tends to vomit, and in the vomit the grass comes out, and so I'm guessing, or it seems pretty clear, that the grass is just not digestible, and that's why he's vomiting it out. But I've heard other people say that when dogs eat grass, that it's actually good for their digestion. So I am going to let Riley eat a little bit of grass, but if he starts to overdo it, I'm going to try to stop him. But he definitely enjoys it, so I want him to have some fun, some enjoyment. Okay, so we're going to hang out here for a bit, and then I think we will continue on. It's still a very nice day out. We will check in later. Bye for now. Hey, Riley. Hey, hold up, buddy. Hold up, buddy. Come on. Riley, hold up, buddy. There you go. All right, Riley got some rolls in before we left, and now we're continuing on. So the trail just popped us out. We came from that direction, right where that white blaze is, and popped us out right on this rock face here with a pretty nice view. And Riley was pulling me that way, but Riley, the trail goes this way. There's the white blaze, so we should go this way. I checked the time a little while ago, and it was like 7:34. So it's probably closing in on 8 p.m. now. We still have light, but it's gonna end soon. So Riley and I are on the hunt for a campsite. We did pass a few campsites up, you know, a little before we came here, but I felt like they were a little high up on the mountain, and if it gets, I just felt like the winds might pick up, and if they do, it's gonna be much windier up there than it is if we can get down to a lower elevation. And I feel like we have time to do that. So we're gonna try to get down a little bit lower. We're descending already, and we'll probably take the next campsite we find. This is the really, what I consider, fun part of the day, when we feel like we've hiked, you know, some good miles, and we can feel like the end of the day is coming and we're gonna get some rest soon, but we don't exactly know where that's gonna be. And so there's a feeling of excitement in terms of, you know, just finding it and seeing what beautiful place we're gonna call home for tonight. So I think Riley sees something. I'm gonna put this away and we'll check back in later. All right, just checking in here. I just wanted to show this little descent we're gonna do. So here's one white blaze, and then we're just gonna like kind of follow those white blazes down. And so it's like a really steep ascent. There's that double white blaze right there on the tree indicating we gotta turn right. And yeah, this looks like we're gonna need to descend it really slowly, really carefully until we get all the way down there. So I'm gonna put the camera away, and we're gonna get down. So we are descending into Tesnatee Gap. There's a parking area down here. We saw some other hikers descending as well. I assume this is their car. And we were behind them for a while. And Riley was super excited to find them, and we eventually passed them. They're gonna be coming down to the parking area pretty soon here. So we just need to figure out where we're gonna continue the trail here. I think it's probably over here, or it could be across the road. Not totally sure. I don't think it's down here. That doesn't make sense. Riley, come on, buddy. Hold up, buddy. Hold up, Riley. I think it's across the road. So there's a white blaze there. It's gotta be across the road. Yeah, there's a white blaze there. Here we go. Yep, that sign says Tesnatee Gap, and it gives the elevation up there. Very good. Riley, come on, buddy. So we should be able to find a campsite pretty soon, but I think there's people already here at a campsite. All right, I'm gonna put this away. We'll see what we got. So we descended to Tesnatee Gap and crossed over to the other side where the AT connects, and there was a campsite down there, but there's already 3 people in it. So we got to continue on to the next campsite, and we got to climb. We got to do an uphill climb here. I know there was a sign down there that said Hogpen Gap is 0.9 miles from here, and between here and Hogpen Gap there's also Whitley Gap Shelter. So those are our options, but we've decided we're gonna just take a little break for the time being. Riley's been walking really hard since he was chasing after those hikers that were in front of us, and we still have light, and we'll just continue on after a little bit once we catch our breath. But It's nice that the weather's super awesome right now. It's not cold at all. It's not raining. It doesn't seem like there's a chance of rain. It's not windy, just very pleasant. And we've gotten a lot of exercise. I mean, we didn't do a lot of miles today, but the miles we did do, I feel like we gave good effort, and I feel really good. So we'll check in once we get to our campsite. Bye for now. You can hardly see anything now. So we got to the top of the mountain, and this was after Tesnatee Gap, and we found a nice campsite. But as soon as we got there, I heard stuff rumbling through the bushes and the leaves, and it was going away from us, it sounded like, but it continued for like 10 seconds. It was a lot of rumbling, and it was probably a black bear or multiple bears. And Riley heard them and got very animated and wanted to chase after them. Sorry it's so, yeah, I gotta shine the light where the camera's looking. And so I decided to continue on. Doesn't seem to make sense to, obviously there's the potential for bears anywhere here on the AT, but if you're sure that a bear has been in a certain area, it's probably best to avoid that if possible. Here you go, Riley. So we're gonna try to get a little bit lower and continue on. And what does this sign say? I think this is Whitley Gap Shelter. Yes, it is. It says 1.2. Yeah, Whitley Gap Shelter. 1.2 miles. Yeah. And, okay. So that's a white blaze there. And, oh, this is a blue blaze. Right, okay, so the Whitley Gap Shelter is back that way. And the AT continues this way. Yes. And there's no point in going 1.2 miles to get to a shelter when we can just continue on the AT and probably find a campsite in less distance. And then we don't have to walk another 1.2 miles out of the shelter. I mean, I know the logic is kind of confusing because we're out here walking. We're here to walk, so what's the difference whether we walk another one mile to our shelter or not? And I guess, yeah, either way is fine. If someone wants to walk additional miles to get to shelters, that's totally cool. But for me, I guess, at least on this hike with Riley, you know, not being able to do infinite miles, you know, he needs a lot of rest. I prefer to stay on the AT if possible. So that's what we're gonna do. We're gonna keep going. Riley, let's go. And we're gonna find our campsite soon. All right, come on, buddy, let's go. All right, so, hello, oh, sorry. So we just ascended into Hog Pen Gap, didn't take long at all, and crossed the road out there. And we were in the Raven Cliffs Wilderness, and we're now entering the Mark Trail Wilderness in the Chattahoochee National Forest, which we've been in for a while. But this is a new wilderness area. All right, so I'm hoping there's a campsite pretty soon. Hello. So we are in our tent now. We made it just past Hog Pen Gap. Hog Pen Gap was very quick, just 0.2 miles after Whitley Gap Shelter. And we just crossed the road after Hog Pen Gap and went about 1/10 of a mile to find a campsite. we got there and there was a fire going and 3 other hikers were already there, but there was plenty of space for another campsite. So Riley and I set up our tent here. Riley's asleep. And yeah, so we got our tent set up and Riley had dinner and we're gonna go to sleep now. So in all today, we made it from Neel Gap to just past Hogpen Gap. So that's mile 38 from 31.4 to 38 to 38.4. So a total of 7 miles. So the adventure continues tomorrow. Hope all of you are doing well, and then we'll say good night.